Well, good morning, friends. Why don't you just look at the person next to you and say, hey, I'm so glad I'm sitting next to you this morning. Okay, find somebody else in case that person didn't believe you and say, hey, I'm so glad to be sitting next to you. I'm so glad I'm standing. So as we get started this morning, beloved, it is so great to be in this space, in community together. Why don't we start by just grounding ourselves, 2 feet on the ground, feeling the breath in our lungs, and getting in touch with our bodies. So if you haven't yet this morning, let's together collectively take a deep breath in through the nose, hold at the top, sigh it out through the mouth. One more because I needed that. Deep breath in through the nose, hold at the top, sigh it out. Holy God, we thank you for the sacred gift of our breath. God, in these turbulent times, we thank you that the peace, the grace, the mercy that you give is always only one breath away. Remind us of who we are and remind us of whose we are. God, thank you for the community that has gathered in this space in the midst of a difficult season. God, we thank you that our community has never been stronger, has never loved deeper, and has never shown up for one another more lovingly. So God, thank you for this space. Be with us. In the name of the great healer, Jesus. Amen. 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 Well, this morning it is my esteemed honor as more folks come in. Come on in. Come on in. Yeah, come on in. We'll get some more chairs going. Yeah, there's a few spaces in the corner there. I know. Thank you, Brother Tony. Thank you, Brother Tony. Thank you, Sarah. Get some more chairs flowing into the space. Yeah, there's a lot of room on this side here for chairs. So this morning, as we get to our seats, it is my esteemed honor to introduce and welcome someone this morning who has really changed in the last several years the cultural and civic landscape of Pasadena and Altadena. Did you know you did that? All right, well, you know now. As many of you may know, the famed and legendary science fiction writer Octavia Butler called Pasadena and Altadena home for many, many years. And there are several places throughout our local community. Thank y'all so much. Give it up for the folks who are helping us get more capacity. Thank you. And so there are several spaces in Dena where the legacy of Octavia Butler has lived on. One is the famed Huntington Library, and as a matter of fact, we're honored to have Karen Lawrence, president of the Huntington Library, and her husband here with us this morning. Just throw up a hand because I know this is exactly what you wanted this morning. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. So that's one place where Octavia Butler's legacy lives on in our community. Another space is Washington, or previously named Washington Middle, which was recently renamed after Octavia Butler. As a matter of fact, so recently, let's give it up for that. And y'all, that has happened so recently. If you're from the Pasadena area, you know that's a little bit newer. As a matter of fact, a couple of years ago, I was at the Black History Parade, and then someone ran up to me frantically saying, did I miss Octavia Butler? Did Octavia Butler come by already? And I said, well, I should hope not. And I looked at the person next to me and said, are they okay? And then we remembered, oh yeah, they aptly renamed the middle school after Octavia Butler and her legacy. And another place, she's actually buried here in Altadena, and thankfully her grave and her memorial site was unscathed from the fires. So we can give it up for that. It's a beautiful thing. And now, in the last couple of years, there's another space where the legacy of Octavia Butler is living on. And it's a place called Octavia's Bookshelf. And it has been, yeah, let's give it up for that, y'all. And let me tell you, it has been the space and place that our community intuitively, in our collective psyche and soul, always knew that we needed but never really had. And as it opened, there were lines down the block. And I don't know if you remember, but All Saints Church, we were actually blessed to be the place where the soft launch of Octavia's Bookshelf actually took place back in February of 2023. But Octavia's Bookshelf has been a home to not only Octavia Butler's legacy, but also many great Black writers and authors and poets and novelists throughout the centuries. And the person who founded it is an entrepreneur, brilliant thinker, historian, and also was someone who had a dream and said, you know what, I'm gonna leave this incredible, safe executive position at Trader Joe's and launch out and do something that feels and seems impossible. But I'm so glad that she did, because Pasadena and Altadena are better because of the risk that she took. So All Saints Church, let's just give a warm welcome to none other than Nikki High. Come on, y'all.
Good morning. I'm kind of emotional right now. Bear with me. These tears are tears of gratitude, just so you know. Thank you. And so we are here today, 30 days post the wildfires. And if any of you are familiar with Octavia Butler's book, Parable of the Sower, you know that in the book, the fires started February 1st, 2025. And so she was, 3 weeks off? And I talk a lot about Parable of the Sower, and so many people say, you know, she was a prophet, she was a visionary, and those things can be true, but I think most about how Octavia Butler studied climate change, and she studied the world and our government and our response or non-response to so many things. And it was because she had such a keen eye, she was able to look at 30 years in the past. She looked at what was not being done to address these things, and then she accurately predicted where we would be starting in July of 2024. That's when her book opens. And so while it seems unsettling to read about these climate disasters and, you know, the state of humanity in the book, what resonates with me most is the blueprint of hope. Lauren Olamina was 15 years old when the book opened, and it was through her leadership that she created a new community that was based on community care. She showed such courage, and I look at young people now, and I looked at how many young people came to my bookstore following the wildfires to volunteer and to take charge, and it just gives me a great deal of hope. If any of you have read Parable of the Talents, you know that if we don't do this right, things may not look good. So I'm just leaning on the blueprint of hope and perseverance that Octavia Butler left us in Parable of the Sower. So when Chase reached out to me and asked if I'd like to come and talk to All Saints, it was a resounding yes. It always is. I'm so grateful for this community here. You all were the first people to reach out to me before I opened the store and said, "Come down, let us love on you, start selling books." And I remember I went out to the courtyard and I had my book set up, and I had never sold a book before. So you guys are and there was a line, wrapped around, and I hauled in, I don't even know how many books, and I walked away with none. So thank you. Beyond that, I don't know if many of you remember, but about a year and a half ago, my store was burgled. Someone kicked in the door, and the first call I got after I posted it on Instagram was All Saints to say, "What do you need? How can we support you?" They came right away to try to make things, put things back together for us. And throughout the last 2 years, I've been here to do panels. I did a book signing, and I am just so incredibly grateful to have All Saints. So when Chase called me, said, "Well, do you want to talk about Altadena?" Yes, I'll do anything for All Saints. And so I want to tell you a story about Altadena. I think many people that I've spoken to in the last few weeks, they have lived in California a long time and have actually never heard of Altadena. And certainly people outside of California, they've never heard of Altadena. I was thinking about this, though. I'm guilty of not promoting Altadena because when I live in Altadena myself, and when I meet people not from here, they say, "Well, where are you from? Where do you live?" I say Pasadena because it's just too difficult to explain Altadena. I'm like, it's on top, it's like north of Pasadena, but there's like this invisible line. And so if you go over here, and like, it's too much. And so they know us now. But to explain to you properly what Altadena means to me, I need to go all the way back to the 70s. 3-year-old Nikki just arrived here with her mom from Chicago. We had an aunt who lived in Pasadena, and my mom wanted to get as far away from the snow and my dad as possible. So that's how we got here. And we moved into what is now the King's Villages, but it was the King's Manor. And I remember vividly my mom on the phone with her cousins, and she said, "I don't think they know what housing projects are. These are the housing projects, but they're 2-story apartments with air, and it is not like Cabrini Greens in Chicago." So that's pretty much where I got my start. So if, we're talking late 70s, early 80s, it was, prime crack epidemic. There was just a lot of stuff happening. And my mom didn't really have to worry about me because I just wanted to be at home reading my books. And I would pretty much read anything that I could get my hands on. Cereal boxes, newspapers. I would sneak books from my aunt's nightstand. I read Flowers in the Attic when I was 7. And my grown-ups would come in the room, and I'd be like, perched on the couch with my books, and they say, "Oh, look, the baby can read." And I was, "What are you reading?" I'm like, Danielle Steele. I don't, just whatever I can read. And it was through the keen eye of a school librarian who asked me one day, "What are you reading right now?" And I was like, "Stephen King." And she said, "Okay, well, we're going to fix that. We're going to get you some books." And my love affair with books I don't know. It's something about the smell of books, the way the pages smell, holding them in my hand, and then reading words that I could not collect myself, and having someone tell me a story. And those stories can take me around the world through Octavia Butler. They take me to different planets. And so, being a product of the Pasadena Unified School District, of course, I went to school. I went to school in Altadena. I went to Elliott. I went to, school in Pasadena because we share the same district. And I would visit my friends on the weekends and after school who lived in Altadena. And it was the first time that I saw Black home ownership. And I would go to my friends' homes and they had pools and they went on vacations and they had their own rooms, and sometimes it was like a 2-story house. Like, oh my God, you guys are rich. And it just felt so aspirational for me, because in Altadena, you could be walking down the street and see a Latino cowboy, and then there's like a Maserati going across Altadena Drive, and then there's a school bus that's painted in rainbows. This place that had so much artistry and history, and then going to friends' houses who lived in the meadows, and seeing how an abolitionist actually founded that neighborhood, and that was such a diverse place. Understanding, no, I didn't really have the numbers, but it was through my lived experience. And so when I recognize the numbers, 82% of all Black residents in Altadena own their home. That is more than twice the national average. So to say it's aspirational is an understatement. I just thought, man, one day I'm gonna live in Altadena. And I grew up and I went to college and got married, and then I bought a house in Altadena, and it just felt like I'd made it. And it didn't really make sense to anybody else unless you were in my peer group or neighborhood. I meet people who live in Malibu and the Palisades and Beverly Hills, and I'm like, I bought a house in Altadena, and they're like, okay. Or if you get those hypothetical questions like, all right, you have $100 million, where do you move to? And I'm like, I stay here. I stay in Altadena. And so it's because Altadena, Pasadena, has raised me, right? 2+ years ago, when I thought it would be a really good idea to open up a bookstore, I just made a tweet. We don't tweet anymore, but I tweeted, I'm going to open up a bookstore. I'm going to quit my job and open up a bookstore. And people from Altadena and Pasadena immediately were drawn to this. And so I knew I wasn't alone. And even though I have faced a huge number of challenges over the last 2 weeks, I've just never been alone. And for that, I'm so grateful. So that's my story of how I got to Altadena and what it means to me. But I want to tell you what we're facing right now. So 30 days post wildfire, I turned the bookstore into a mutual aid hub for 3 weeks. It was something about being in community with people who are experiencing the exact same thing that I was experiencing at that moment, and we were all helping each other. And so this has been the acute trauma phase, right? We're just, where do we live? How do we get water? We need toothpaste. We need the stuff. And so now the majority of us we've received those items, and now we're looking forward. And this isn't something that will go away or be fixed next month or next year 5 years from now. It's a long road. And so I've been taking every opportunity I can whenever someone puts a camera in front of my face or they come in my store or allow me to speak. I let them know that we have a new challenge ahead of us, and that is making sure that Altadena is being rebuilt in the way that it was before. We don't want cookie cutter homes. I have nothing against that, but we want our homes. We want our community. We want our coffee shops back. We want Rhythms of the Village back. We want Steve's Pet Store back. We want, Cafe de Leche. We want our schools back. And I'm keeping a very close eye on predatory land developers who have swarmed us. And I want to tell you something about how what my grandmother used to say, the unmitigated gall. The unmitigated gall of a land developer coming into my store and telling me, I am a land developer and I am here to help Altadena. And I saw you on Instagram and I thought I would come here because I would love to do a Q&A session and sign people up. And I'll have my representatives here and we can make sure that they are whole. And I said, well, how do you do that? And I kept asking question after, probing questions. And he said, well, that there are a lot of elderly people who lost their homes and, they should have the rest of their lives not worrying about rebuilding their homes. They might want to relocate somewhere else. And I just said, get out. Get out. I'm puzzled that this is happening. I'm also keeping an eye on land and home sales in Altadena. The first home that was sold post-fire just happened about 7 days ago. And so while people have every right to do what is best for them, because we want to support everyone in their choices, we don't want these properties to go to corporations or land developers who want to change the landscape of our quaint little mountain, diverse, artistic town. And so that's what's ahead of us. We also know that the temporary housing that 270 people are still sleeping in was threatened to be closed last week. And it was because all of us gave a big, giant, blank no that we were able to buy one more week. And next week, we need to buy another week and another month until everyone has safe, temporary placement while they think about rebuilding. We need to have advocates and attorneys who are able to talk with homeowners who are displaced to let them know about their options. I am in the fire zone myself. I'm one of the few homes. I don't know if some of you have seen on television, there's for blocks and blocks, there's no homes, but you see like one home here and 3 homes there. One of those is my home on Maiden Lane, just behind Elliott. And I have gotten phone calls, text messages, mail from attorneys and people who are offering to just take the property off my hands. I'll give it to you real quick. Yeah. One really, really gem of a guy said, I'll give you $300,000 right now. Yeah. So, it's insulting and it's humiliating, but the power of this community, the power of so many people. I mean, the fact that you all got up early and came here to hear me speak about this means that there's interest, and I just ask you to join in the fight with us. And you can just do that by talking about it, keeping keeping Altadena in your prayers, talking about it with your neighbors, attending important meetings that are happening all over the place. And I think that sometimes feels really intentional, because if there are 5 important meetings and they all start within 30 minutes of each other, you can't get to all of them. I also think about, keeping track of the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, and as they remove this toxic ash that we're all breathing in, that contains asbestos and lead and arsenic, where are they dumping it? They have proposed dump sites within the Pasadena and Altadena community, which is a no. If you are, in conversation with someone, I got a call from a New York Times reporter who said, he wanted to talk to me about Altadena, and we talked about the devastation and we talked about the fires, and he said, well, I guess the real question is should Altadena be rebuilt? And I said, that is an interesting question. And my response to you is, well, they rebuilt the Palisades every 5 years. They rebuilt Malibu this is the first time Altadena has burned this way. That's why these 150-year-old homes who have asbestos in it, because they were built over 100 years ago. We've never experienced this before, and it's interesting that question would even be on somebody's mind. Should this town exist? Should the 60,000 displaced residents just never get to go back? And so those are the things that we have to think about, the language that we need to use when we have an opportunity to talk to folks about the rebuilding of Altadena. In the current environment that we're in politically, there is never a more crucial time for us to stand together, for mutual aid to become the way that we take care of one another. That has been demonstrated over and over again throughout Pasadena and Altadena, especially over the last month. We are all we have. We have to do things to take care of one another, because there may come a time where we don't have government resources. Read Parable of the Sower, please. There are ways to get around that. We're bigger than them. We're stronger than them. We have more hope than them. We have more humanity than them. We have more love than them. So we're going to be okay. We know how to build community. It's sitting right here. It's outside the doors. It's the work that you all do every single day. When I go to pass by All Saints, no matter what time of the morning, there are I've seen the Jumbotron outside streaming services and the community events and all the care work that you all do. It's that's what we're supposed to be doing, and you all have modeled it so brilliantly and inspired me. When I came back to my store the day after I was evacuated, which was January 8th, I was just looking for Wi-Fi because I was like, oh, I gotta, file a homeowner's insurance claim. And then I started thinking, well, if I need to get online, I'm sure other folks need to get online. So I made an Instagram post and I said, hey, everybody, I have power and I have Wi-Fi, and I'll try to get some food and drinks. If you need to come by to work or do whatever, please come on in. And from that, it just grew so organically to a mutual aid hub. Within 24 hours, my bookstore manager, Kiki, said, I think we have an operation here. But to be able to be distributing crucial supplies to the very same people who helped me open the store and kept the store afloat felt like a full circle moment. And I just, I continue to be deeply grateful and pleased that I could be a vessel for that. And so I made the decision to take all the books off the shelf and I put them in the attic. And then all of the donated items I started to get, I just put them on the shelves because I wanted our community to be able to get what they need, their most basic needs, but to do it with dignity. So I thought, well, I'll just make it like a little free shop. And so that's what we did. And day after day, there are so many people who need things. And so I'm, trying to get, culturally specific hair care products for Black women. I mean, just the little things that people just don't know about, right? And so I'm doing all that. And, 1 week leads into another. And people started to come in and say, hey, this is great what you're doing. I'm really curious, though. You haven't sold any books this month. What are you doing? And I said, I don't know, but I will figure it out. And by I mean we, the royal we. So many people were intuitive enough to understand that, I still had to make payroll and pay bills and invoices. And it was through the generosity of so many people who said, I want you to keep distributing supplies to the folks that need it. And so I was able to cover my expenses that way. Long term, I don't know what's going to happen. My base community is gone. But I do believe that there is power in healing and having third spaces, which at this point, the idea of a third space is like you're at home all the time or at work all the time. Where's your other place? But think about it. For so many people, this will be their second space because they don't have a home. And so I am thinking about ways to continue support. We are a bookstore again, by the way. I had to get some books on the shelf and start that work. But we are pivoting, though, to healing, right? Programs that will help to regulate your nervous system because you can't really process the trauma until your nervous system has been regulated. Grief support, journaling workshops, crafting workshops, like just something to do for an hour or 2 hours, you don't have to actually think about what's ahead of you. You can just sort of separate yourself. And so those are the types of programming that we're offering at Octavia's Bookshelf now. And again, the work is ongoing, right? Because in a year from now, there's going to be another climate disaster in some other part of the country or part of our state, and then Altadena will be forgotten about. And so I think if I can stress one thing the most from this conversation is to just remember that this is a marathon, it's not a race. And every time you share a story or talk about what's happening in Altadena, you keep Altadena in your prayers. You support the stores that are moving their businesses online. You support Octavia's Bookshelf. All of those things will matter in the long run, and it will help us rebuild. We are dedicated to rebuilding. And if you see a hashtag that says Altadena is not for sale, just know that it's not just a hashtag, it's now a way of life. And so I thank you very much for letting me speak to you today about our beautiful city of Altadena. And if you have time, I would love to take some questions if there are any, or comments.
First, let's give it up I have a question.
Okay.
I want to start us off. You mentioned that when you read The Sower, there's the hope there, and then you get to the talents, and it's like, whoa. Can you talk a little bit more about that distinction and what Octavia Butler might say to us in this room and in this space? You know what I mean? And
Yeah. I mean, Octavia Butler, self-described as a sometimes pessimist. So I think about that too, like, but the urgency that she felt, I think, you know, there are these like T-shirts and bumper stickers, and it rightly says, "Hi, Tamisha." It rightly says, "Octavia tried to warn us." And so I would say the distinction there is we have some way forward if we really pay attention and we're grounded in those principles. But if we don't, Parable of the Talents will show what's could happen, and it's not good. I will say, if I assume most of you all have read Parable of the Sower. If you haven't, read it. But if you're ready to do talents, hold on to it, because Tamisha Tyler back there is she's doing a reading event on Parable of the Talents this year. So be on the lookout for that.
All right, I'm going to run the mic to questions, but I just want to make one quick comment. You said to keep Altadena and yourself in our prayers. That's one big way to encourage you. But we're going to do way more than that. So, y'all, she's not going to leave with a single book, right? Are we in agreement on that? All right? She's not going to leave without a single book this morning. So we're going to do much more than pray.
Thank you.
And we're going to encourage you. All right, we'll take some questions.
I guess it's on. Can you ask Tamisha to please tell us where and when she's doing the reading?
Tamisha, can you come up?
Give it up for Dr. Tamisha Tyler, y'all. All right.
Hi, everyone. I did not think I would be. Hi. So as a backdrop, last summer we did a 5-week slow communal reading of Parable of the Sower in July, because the book starts July 20, 2024. We're doing talents again this July for the 5 Tuesdays. We are going to be at the Center for Restorative Justice, which is a nonprofit here in Pasadena. Our offices are actually in the First Baptist building. So First Baptist right on the corner of Marengo and Union. We have office space there. It will be sometime in the evening. It will also be hybrid. So for people who if you're like one of those Tuesdays I'm out of town, you can hop online and join it. It is filled with questions. We have a playlist. I need to give you the playlist for Sower. We have rituals. It'll just be a really great time. You can get my email after this.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you. I saw a couple more hands. Okay, we got one in the back right here.
The concept that you raised about third space is really important to many of us here at All Saints, and I know that you are here speaking on behalf of. And sure. Online, thank you. Are there concrete ways, since you're, it might feel awkward to kind of talk about your bookstore, but it seems like such an important gathering place at a time when people are getting dispersed because of the circumstances. Are there concrete ways for those of us who really would like to support third spaces like your bookstore? Yeah, what can we do?
Thank you for asking. So you can purchase books online. You can purchase books in the store. But we also have a Patreon that we set up, and they are tiers: $5 tier, $10 tier, $20 tier. Those are monthly. You're billed monthly. We give book recommendations every month on our Patreon. We open up pre-orders exclusively for Patreon members. You get 10% discount when you shop in store, but that is a way for us to offset the cost of operating is through Patreon. Thank you.
And can we also overpay for books? Is that a way to, I'm just hypothetically speaking, if, is that a way to also?
I can make anything happen.
All right.
Yes.
It's settled then. All right. One question.
Fantastic presentation. I appreciate it. My question is, do you feel as though you're getting the right kind of support from city government or county government? And is there anything that they need to be doing that we might be able to help advocate for?
Yeah, thank you for that. It's a tricky question. Are there any City of Pasadena workers in here? Is this a safe third space? Okay.
Well, we cut the stream off at 9:45 if you want to wait.
No, I mean, I think that there's been a great effort to bring resources, and I have benefited from those resources as a displaced Altadenian, as have many people. The hard work right now is keeping an eye on local government. So in order to help, I think streaming or going to city council meetings, Kathy Barger is another place to keep an eye on and to call, as well as Judy Chu.
Absolutely, because if you're familiar with the politics and the structure of Pasadena, Altadena, it's the LA County that governs over Altadena, and so that for a lot of organizers and folks in the city, that's a kind of new territory, not necessarily as accustomed to how those specific mechanisms work.
Yeah.
So thank you. All right, we'll go there, but I'm gonna save myself some steps on the front end. I'm gonna go right here.
I just wondering, I also am really keen, I'm totally new here. I've been here 6 months and I don't live in Altadena. But I am really drawn to the loss of the history. And you were talking about rebuilding the authentically sort of the homes that existed. Has anyone already started or thought about, I'm not going to use the correct terms, but like a land trust or something that we could work to do that then, like to sort of fight the developers?
Yeah.
And then with that, we could sort of equitably disperse that land or support the people who want to build back?
Yes, that is being worked on, and once it is solidified, I'll be sharing that information via my website and Instagram. Social media is not intuitive to me, and I think the reason that I get so much engagement is because I'm like really clumsy with it, and I think it makes people laugh, but I'll try. And I always think that like I'm doing a really good job, and people are like, oh, is that like a shtick? Like it's like, no. But so I'll try to put it on stories. I get confused, like reels and posts and stories. I'll make a big noise about it. Yeah.
For the Gen Zers, that would be authenticity that they're seeing and experiencing. All right, we'll go here, then I'll come around.
Thank you for a great presentation this morning. We rebuilt our house in unincorporated LA County after the station fire. And I have at least 2 suggestions on like what to do. One is everybody's feet, Barger in particular, need to be like put to the fire, held to the fire on the issue of streamlining the process at LA County. Permitting process, inspection process. Our rebuild there took 8 years, and we had a lot of assets at our disposal. A friend who was a former developer rebuilt his place in about 2.5 years. That was super fast. Most people, it took many years. So one thing is streamline that process. The inspectors, everybody, it just has to go faster. The other thing is, I'm going to bang a drum here. I've been banging for a number of years. Power lines belong underground.
Yes.
Underground. And so when the rebuild comes in Altadena, all those power lines need to be underground. People always say, well, what a huge project. But we keep doing this. So let's get the power lines underground.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you for being such a big supporter of my store, you and your wife both. But yes, and to that I say, because people say, well, that's such a big deal, and I'm like, well, the town is already flattened. Like, let's do it right. Yeah.
Of a bigger deal than that.
Yeah.
And that point is such a resounding amen. I think it's a great time to segue and unfortunately say goodbye to our
Bye.
online
Thank
audience.
you so much.
We're going to transition to our worship service at 10 a.m. So log back on and join us there. But we're going to stay here in the room because this feels amazing, right? There's a lot of love and energy in this space. So we'll stay here till 10. But peace and love to our online audience.
Thank you very much for being here. In response to how we build back, I'm like everybody in this room. We lost our home. We're getting bombarded. So there's two companies. I don't know what they are. One was by Catherine Berg.